Hello everybody and welcome to a brand new Elder Scrolls Online video with me, Sherman. Today we are taking a look at a new tank version, of the Barbarian tank, which is a sword tank, but it is not your more popular playstyle. It is just one that I really like and I really enjoy playing it. Now I have made some alterations to this build because of Summerset, to bring it a little bit more in line with the popular playstyle, if you will, or the meta, and we'll go ahead and get into it. So you can see we are a Nord Sorc. The Nord, Orc, or Khajiit are the best races for this build. The main reason why is because of their health recovery. This is a health recovery tank, so it does play off of that health recovery a lot. And we'll get into that here in a second. So, as you can see, we have 15 into Magicka, 33 into health, 16 into stamina. That gives us a 20k Magicka, 40k health, 23k stamina, and our health recovery is coming in at 2692, which is pretty decent. But I want to show you guys what happens when you use a pot, so you guys can see. Oops. We go up to 3009 health recovery, which is really, really good for this build. Now, an Argonian cannot reach this level of health recovery, so they're not as good for this, but when it comes to potions, Argonians hands down beat this out easily. Crit's not too high or anything, but our resistances might seem kind of low until we buff up. We go up to about a 27k on both bars, so that's pretty good, or on both resistances. Going down here, we are using the Steed Mundustone. We are using that mainly for the health recovery, but it's also nice because it does give us a little bit more better movement speed, so we are a little bit more mobile. Going down here, we are using tri-stat food, and going into the gear, we are using the longfin pasty with melon sauce. Any tri-stat food that's CP 150 that gives you 4k health, 4k stamina, and magicka is what you want. So going over to the potions, we are using the crown tri potions, but you want to use what's called healthy pots on the live servers because they give you 9k health, 7k magicka, and stamina back. This build is, the way it's set up right now, is kind of a little tricky to play with when it comes to using potions, but don't stress it, you can still get by. Moving on to the sets, we are running a 2-piece Lord Warden. Lord Warden is fantastic because it does give you extra resistances and it brings you closer to that 30k when it procs, when you take damage, so it's really kind of powerful and really nice because it also gives you extra resistances. And this allows you to take the Steed Mundustone. Moving on to the first main set we're wearing, we are using the Green Pack set. This thing gives you health recovery, max health again on the 4-piece, and the 5-piece is when you have a food buff active, your max health is increased by 2,500 and your health recovery by 250. That's a pretty decent amount of health recovery. Now, the other set we're running is a 5-piece Beekeeper, and look what this thing does. 2 pieces max health, 3-piece, 4-piece, and 5-piece are health recovery, and that's a lot of health recovery coming out of this. On the jewelry here, we do have 2 shield play enchants with the necklace infused with a potion cooldown. So it makes our potions more easily active. Every 37 seconds we can activate a potion, which makes it really easy for us to sustain with this build. On the 5-piece set, we are running 2 infused on the head and the legs because they are the big pieces and they give us the most back from the tri-stats. On the chest, we are running tri-stat also, but reinforced. And on the smaller pieces, we are running 4 sturdy. Moving on to the sword and shield, we are running 2 sturdy shields with tri-stats in them. And we are running on the swords 2 are both crusher enchants. We are going to be using a lot of abilities, so crusher will be up quite often. So, alright, so that is that. Moving on to the skills. Make sure that you get all your class passives. There are going to be some skills here that you're going to think I do need, like, I know some people are going to say you're going to need Dark Exchange. If you want to use Dark Exchange, you can, but the only place you can really put this, that's going to be really, really worthwhile, is going to be where Meditate is, and Meditate's way too powerful to give up. So, You can take the Dark Deal, though. Moving on to Daedric Summoning, make sure you get all the passives, especially Power Stone for the ultimate, and the Daedric Protection. This gives you increased health recovery by 20% and stamina recovery by 20%. This is why Khajiits can play this build really well. Khajiits get 20% health recovery and 10% stam recovery, so they can play this build even better. So, because they do get a little bit more stamina recovery. Right, moving on. Stormcalling, get all your passives. Weapons, sword and shield. You want to make sure you get all the passives for this. You're really going to need them. On to the armor. Light armor, you want to make sure you get the passives here. The passives on the medium armor, the top two and the bottom one. And the heavy armor, you want to get all. Now, the reason why you want the passives for the medium armor and the light armor is because of, I think it's Unholy Knowledge. Yes, reduces the magic and stamina cost by 5%. When you wear a piece of light armor, one piece of light armor, and you have this, it also reduces the cost of your magic abilities by 2%. So you actually have a 7% decrease in your cost of magic abilities. And with this one, you actually get a 7% reduced cost of stamina abilities, which I know to some people isn't a lot, but it does play well with this. So, and also with the class having the 15% reduced cost on ultimates, makes ultimates activation really cheap. Make sure you get all your heavy passives. Soul, you can be a vampire with this. I tried it. I didn't really care for it, to be honest, because you have so much health recovery, you don't even want that. And vampire also makes you more susceptible to fire damage, and it doesn't work as quite as good. So both of those on that. On the Fighters Guild, I only have 2 passives here: Intimidating Presence, Banish the Wicked. Mages Guild, I only have Persuasive Will. Psijic Order, I have the 2 bottom passives because those are the only 2 that are going to be really needed. Undaunted, get Undaunted Metal and Undaunted Command. Make sure you do get Bone Surge, not Spike Bone Shield. Spike Bone Shield is my preferred, but Bone Surge is going to be better for group play because of the synergy effect. And then moving on to the assault skills, make sure you have Aggressive Warhorn, and then all your racials, especially this one, because you want that 20% health recovery. The other ones here, the 9% max health, the 6% stamina is pretty good. Rugged is going to be also essential. You have to understand, the only time that this becomes a multiplier or a funky addition is if you're using something like the Fighters Guild Circle of Protection, which is adding extra protection to you, or somebody grants you major protection or minor protection. If somebody applies that to you, this doesn't affect the way it should. Now on a Sorc, because you have nothing giving you any other damage reduction, this plays normally on this build. I've done the testing, and it does still work that way. It still is 6%. And the way we have our CP set up, you'll see why. So alchemy, make sure you get the medicinal use, and then on to provisioning, you want to make sure you get Gourmand and Connoisseur. Now, going over the skills on the bar, we do have Pierce Armor. This is to apply Major Breach and Major Fracture. It is also our main primary and only taunt that we're using for this build. On to the next one, we have Heroic Slash. This is pretty good. I mean, it's good because it's going to give you minor heroism. It does a little bit of damage, and it also applies minor maim, but it only applies minor maim to one target, guys. So you have to, like, if you want to get minor maim on multiple targets, you're going to have to run around slapping people with it. And that's just going to eat up resources. Now, on trash fights, it's fine, but on boss encounters, you're only fighting one most of the time. Bone Surge, really great damage shield. It absorbs 32% of your max health, or damage equal to 32% of your max health. It's a really good, powerful damage shield. And when you combine this with the other damage shield you have from the Psijic Order, you go up to an 18k damage shield. It is just crazy. So it's pretty powerful damage shield. Moving on, we do have Deep Thoughts. Deep Thoughts gives us back 1700 health, 1914 magic and stamina every second while we have it active. Because of one of the passives to the Psijic Order, though, we do get a 30% damage reduction. This is where that 6% we have just doesn't play well with it. Going over here, I want to go into the Psijic Order again, just so you guys can see this. There is a reason why we have one of these passives here, Concentrated Barrier. This gives us a damage shield for 5,450 because we have Deep Thoughts slotted. So both of these passives are because we have this slotted, and they're just crazy. The next ability we have is Bound Armaments. This is a stamina cost ability, but if you look what it does, it gives you 8% max stamina, which is really good. It also gives you 11% more damage to your light attacks, which you're really not going to be playing off of, but it's still kind of good. It's the bonus that this can give you. If you're having issues with blocking and mitigating damage, pop this and go into block. For 3 seconds, you get a 20% extra mitigation on blocking. The sword tanks this update are crazy powerful when it comes to block tanking. The next ability I have here is my ultimate, and that is Shield Discipline. This one gives you 7 seconds of blocking without any cost, so you can use heavy attacks to get resources back. It also makes it to where your sword and shield abilities cost 100% less. So it's kind of nice if you want to use this in one of those like oh crap moments where you need to get some resources back, you have it. Moving on to the back bar, we have Silver Leash. This is a Fighter's Guild ability of Silver Bolts. You do want to get this ability because this is going to be your only pull. And your only taunt is from the Sword and Shield. We are not using a range taunt on this because the next ability we're using is Restraining Prison. This allows you to lock down multiple targets for 6 seconds. And as long as they're not hit, they're immobilized. So you can lock them down and keep them off of your allies. It's a really good CC crowd control thing, especially in dungeons. If you want to change this out in trials, change this out with the range taunt from the Undaunted line. As you can see here, I do have that. I do not have that unlocked, but you can unlock it. You can go with either one, Inner Rage or Inner Beast. It's up to you. Most people prefer Inner Rage over Inner Beast. So we'll just go ahead and get that. But you can put that right here if you need it. Moving on to the next ability, we do have Hurricane. Hurricane is an amazing ability. One, it gives you Major Ward and Major Resolve. On top of that, this thing starts ticking at 546 physical damage and grows to up to 150% more damage and in 9 meters in size. It starts at 5 and then grows out to 9 meters. So it does give you a way of doing some extra damage in your group and just helps you do that. The next ability on our bar is Critical Surge. Now, the main reason why we're using Crit Surge is this does weapon damage, but it also heals you whenever you crit. And it heals you for a lot. You really shouldn't need any or have any issues with keeping yourself alive with your health recovery and this on top of it. And then, of course, we have to have Bound Armaments here to keep that 8% max stamina and to have that ability to block another 20% extra damage. So it's really, really powerful. And then last but not least is Aggressive Warhorn. This is here for max health, max stam, and minor toughness for your group for 10%. It increases all those stats. But it also gives your group Major Force, increasing their critical damage by 15% for 9.5 seconds. So it's a really good ability. You're going to be using it quite a bit in trials if you're playing trials with this build. A lot of people probably find this build a little too funky for trials because it's a health recovery tank, but it still works really, really well. So let's go ahead and take a look at our CP. The CP on this one is a lot different than my other tanks, and that's because of the way the build's set up. So starting with the red tree, we do have 37 into Ironclad. We don't have 56, and that's because I kind of had to spread my points out a little awkwardly this time. But as you can see, this gives us 15% damage reduction from direct damage attacks. Moving on to the middle tree, we have 81 into Hardy and 81 into Elemental Defender. This is going to reduce our damage by 14% from Flame Frost, Shock, and Magic damage, and Poison, Physical, and Disease damage. With being a Nord and playing this particular setup, you do get the 6%. So you do get that 6%. So it makes it a total of 20% damage mitigation. So that's why we have that there, because you don't get a lot of damage mitigation with this build through damage shields, because you're not going to be using Bone Surge constantly. You're going to use it when it's like, oh no, I need this kind of moment. The same thing goes with Thick Skinned. We have 23 points in here, reducing damage over time effects, and then the same thing with this, you know, the 15%. So they both stack with this 20% you'll have, so it kind of plays on that. Moving on over to here, We do have Bastion at 20 points, giving us a 9% increase to our damage shields and an 8 in the quick recovery, increasing our healing received by 2.35%. This stacks with the 8% we get from wearing heavy armor, so we have a 10% healing received, which is kind of nice, because it does affect critical surge and our health recovery. Moving over here, we have 37 in a Warlord. This reduces our break free cost by 15%. We have 23 in a bashing focus, giving us a reduced bash cost by 14%. And in the middle tree, we have 43 in a health recovery, giving us another 10% health recovery, with 43 in the tenacity, also giving us 10% return on our fully charged heavy attacks, which is going to be stamina. Moving on over here, we have 56 in the Shadow Ward. Not quite as much as I like to have in here, or would like to have in here, but it still works out. We do lose 4% of our block costs, but that's okay, because we do have the sturdy shield to make up that little bit of difference. We do have 48 into tumbling, in reducing our dodge roll cost by 18%, which saves us some resources as well. And then moving on over here, we have 56 into Blessed, increasing our healing done by 12%. This only applies to crit surge, guys. So this is going to make crit surge heal for a lot more. The other thing we have is 37 into Elfborn. This also affects crit surge, so it makes that healing 15% more if it crits. Which isn't often, but it does happen. Next, we have 18 into Physical Weapon Expert, 40 into Master at Arms. These are just here for pretty much because I didn't have any other real place to put them, but it does increase our critical damage, or give us reposit, which allows us to do that. This is nice though, because this does stack with the other 11%, so we actually have 22% increased damage to our light and heavy, or our light attacks, which is kind of nice. Moving on over here, we have 43 into Mighty and 56 into Precise Strikes. The only reason why I put these points the way I did, guys, is because if I were to put everything into these two, you really don't see much of a difference with the crit surge by too much. Like, I would be getting like 4k health back almost, and then if it crits, I can get up to 8, which is kind of nice, but still not necessary with the way this build's set up, because you have so much health recovery. So I put into these two. Now, like I did yesterday, I'm gonna go ahead and take this build over to Ma and show you guys it in action, so you guys can see for yourselves a little bit about how this build works. Now, you're going to notice I am going to have some resource management problems, but that's mainly because it's really hard for me to manage this build when I'm not used to playing it the way it's set up. So, I mean, I shouldn't have a problem, but we'll see. Now, like I said, I do play this build on live, but it's a lot different on live. Like, I don't have 40k health. I have 35, I think, k health, and I do play an Orc, not an Ord. So, and I get a lot more melee type stuff with them. So and I have weapon damage instead of block enchants, and I have health, healthy jewelry, and I don't have the tri-runes yet. So I can't say 100%. Like, the only thing I ever tested this on was Fang Layer, and it worked great in there. So, alrighty. So the first thing you're going to want to make sure you have up is your crit surge and your hurricane. Lock your enemies down. Bone surge. And as you guys can see, crit surge is going off quite a bit. And with my health recovery, like, I can just stand here and block all day. I don't even need to really heal, because that's all I need is that. So I do need stamina to keep that going. So you do need to heavy attack with this build quite a bit to make that crit surge really do its job. And if I get into trouble, I can do that, or I can even do this, and then I can... if I'm having really bad resource issues, like I said, with stamina, I can go into that block thing, and I can just sit there and heavy attack, and then I can go back into this, swap bars, keep my crit surge. You mainly want to keep your crit surge and hurricane up, and that's the thing that's going to hurt you the most. If you're using the Magicka bound agent, or boundless storms, it doesn't work as well, because then you really have to build into spell crit and not so much into physical crit. With Hurricane, you have to build in a physical crit and stuff like that. But it still works out, and it's pretty fun to play, like I said. The other nice thing about playing a Sorc is you get a lot of ultimate because of things like this. But like I said, the health recovery and crit surge, like, it just keeps you alive. Like, I'm just standing here, and look, I'm not even blocking. I'm just gonna stand here. With the amount of health recovery and crit surge, how they work together, it will keep you alive the whole time. And it doesn't matter what content you're in, it always works out. So. But the nice thing is this: when you do this, and then you go into block, look at this. These guys are just barely touching me now. The other great thing is when you do have Warhorn up, and your crit surge does crit, it heals you for more because you get that 15% extra critical damage, which is really nice. So. And even if you go low in health, you can see it'll bring you back up pretty quickly. So I just love this build, guys. It's just crazy. Like, you can just sit here and do this all day. Like, I don't think I've ever had real major issues. And when you're blocking, like I said, like you take so little damage, but it does take stamina to cast Hurricane, and it's quite a bit. So. It might be better to take the speed potion thing off and put a reduced stamina cost. But that's pretty much the build, guys. You know, I know it's not what you guys probably were expecting when it comes to what I've been releasing this time around. But I do really think that this is the best way to play a Sorc tank, is off of health recovery and crit surge, because it just works so well. So much better over a lot of the other things. Now, I do have another build Sorc tank that I'm going to be releasing also right after this one, called the Storm Knight, and it is a rendition of my Tesla tank, or Killer Mech's Tesla tank, but it's been revised to be more meta-ish, and I think you guys might like that one as well. So that will be coming out as alongside this one today, and I think that, like I said, I hope you guys like that one just as much as you guys did enjoy watching this one in action. I honestly have to say that I do like this build. It's pretty nice to play. It's different from playing the DK, and that's what I like about it, is it is different from playing the atypical meta DK tank, and it plays just so uniquely to itself, because it's, you know, it's not something you see a tank doing, building to be a self-sufficient healer that mitigates damage through healing and through that, you know, the health recovery. So, but that's pretty much it for this build, guys. I hope you guys liked it. If you did, you can hit that like button. If you guys want to see more builds by me or other videos by me, you can hit that subscribe button. Other than that, I want to thank you all for watching. Until next time, have a wonderful day, and this guy might see you in game. Bye.